हेलो। नहीं, मैं आपको होस्ट बना ले रहा हूँ पंकज। ओके, अभी हो गए क्या आप? अब हो गए क्या आप होस्ट? अभी आप ही हो, क्योंकि मेरे को तो आपका वीडियो दिख रहा है यार। हाँ, तो यू आर द होस्ट ऑल थ्रू आउट। The host is not important. The presenter is important. कई का तो मैं यहाँ से कर लेता हूँ। वहाँ पे ही है सब कुछ। व्हाट बाबा? तुमको नहीं, मेरे को इधर सुनाई देगा। नो थैंक यू। अभी कोई पीरा नहीं तो मेरे को दे दो। तुम्हारा आवाज आ रहा है क्या? हाँ, आ रहा है। Don't worry, I am going to mute myself. So we should only you guys. I can. You look little funny over there, though. Yes, yes. ठीक है। I'll go from in the other room. Whenever we have to present, I'll give you the laptop in there. Okay? So it's a web-based Vihara session.
No, yeah, but it's a video.
No, we don't have to put on a video. Okay. If you don't want the video, I'll give you my laptop. Okay? Because I don't have video.
हाँ, आपका भी हाल। हाँ, यही थी बात।
ये म्यूटेड हो? नहीं यार, मैं तो मेरे को म्यूट किया हूँ। अच्छा, हेलो। So guys, let's go. And you are the host, right? Don't go. Let's start. ये कब सका तो? तो जस्ट कॉपी देखेंगे। विवेक, ये ईमेल डाल दो ना कि ये सेशन गोइंग ऑन करके। That's fine. Generally, I start dot at 10. Today we are so. It's not about me. Both of my people are on. Let's start off there. Yes. Hi, everybody. Tati, come on. Come. क्या किधर दिख रहा है? खाना नहीं, ये घर वाला खाना नहीं है वो। तो वी आर डोंट हैव मेनी पीपल टुडे। अपना क्या नाम है संदीप, बहुत लोग नहीं है, कैसे करेंगे? क्या नहीं वंदना भी चालू कर एक डाल देते ना कि करके डाल देता। ये भी मजा पहुँच गए आराम से। हाँ अभी हम लोग सुबह 6:30 बजे पहुँच गए, अभी राकेश्वर में 8 बजे पहुँच गए। एक ईमेल डाल दो ना कि विहारा इज गोइंग ऑन करके, ओके मैं डाल देता हूँ। मैं तुरंत डाल दो कि मैं भी डाल रहा हूँ। ओके
अभी
बात चालू है। हाँ इधर तो विवेक को भी म्यूट कर लो। विवेक को म्यूट नहीं विवेक को म्यूट कर लो। आपको करना पड़ेगा, आपको उस बंदे में नहीं यहाँ पे देखो क्या कर लेगा आपको दिखा रहा ना। यहाँ पे एक आता है चेंज रोल करते हैं, देखो यहाँ पे चेंज रोल करते हैं और नाम करके कंफ्यूजन है। एनीवे गाइस कम ऑन लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। सुनाई दे रहा है क्या? नहीं यहाँ से सुनाई दे रहा है, वहाँ से सुनाई दे रहा है। विवेक आर यू एबल टू हियर अस? लेट्स इंक्रीज द वॉल्यूम। ओके तो यहाँ से सुनाई बाकी लोकल बुला लो, वो है ना Anybody article के लिखा हुआ इनको यहाँ कल नहीं, I think she they are still resting और we can wait for 2 more minutes and Chris special कैसा रहा वीडियो अपने को जल्दी भेजना पड़ेगा है ना अपने को ना, ये इसका जो नोटिस है ना एटलीस्ट जल्दी भेजना पड़ता है। तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है ना, इंडिया में जो है ना तो हमको लगता है कि वेट तो हमको लगता है कि नहीं है। Okay guys, we are going to start the online Buddha Vihara right now. All kids are there in Michigan also, and all kids are here in Washington DC, and we are starting the group Vandana, Buddha Vandana here. So let's start with the group Buddha Vandana. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami, dutiyam pi buddham saranam gacchami, dutiyam pi dhammam saranam gacchami, dutiyam pi sangham saranam gacchami, tatiyam pi buddham saranam
गच्छामि तदीयं धर्मं शरणं गच्छामि तदीयं स्कन्धं शरणं गच्छामि समाधिपाता वेरमणि शिक्षापदं समाधियामि अदीयदाना वेरमणि शिक्षापदं समाधियामि वेरमणि शिक्षापदं समाधियामि वेरमणि शिक्षापदं समाधियामि वेरमणि शिक्षापदं समाधियामि साधु 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 take it over. Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Hello, good morning, guys.
First, I need to so later, not after that.
Hello, guys. Can you able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we have a lot of kids and families over here, so that's why we may be seeing less strength on the Vihara participant session. But a lot of members are over here. There is Pankaj Mishram, Mahesh Wasnik, Nitin, Asha Kutwal, and Chris and Tenwari, and a lot of families are there online, and Vinaya. So what we I think I'll ask someone to give an overview of yesterday's event, and then we can hand over to Asha, who is sitting here. So no, we didn't like. So Mahesh, do you want to give an overview? Okay, that's fine. Okay, Pankaj, can you give an overview of yesterday's event? Whatever the press we have covered, maybe if you want to give an outline of in couple of minutes, I think that will be great.
So yesterday, as all of you are aware, there was a global march organized in Washington DC, and there were quite a few organizations that participated. Lot of people flew from different parts, including participation from India, Nepal, England. We had a lot of participation from different states in US, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Colorado, Texas. So this was a huge success. We started from a Scott Circle, and then the first stopover on the march was to the White House, where there were a few speakers who talked about why we are doing the march and what it means and why we need to push for such march and such event. From White House, then we concluded, started walking towards the Capitol building, and that's where the march was concluded. It was very well attended. We have also made a press release to India and for newspapers and other things yesterday, and I believe a lot of Indian television is gonna cover that. Awas TV, we sent out a video to them as well. So let's see how this one goes. But overall, this was a great success. We had quite supportive and positive feedback for it. March was very peaceful, organized very well, and video conferencing and covered very well too. We had quite a participation in there, and so overall it was a very good event and very positive thing for the push that we are trying to do.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Pankaj. Are there any questions regarding the march, or if anyone wants to understand as what it means in long term and how these groups, different groups, 8-10 groups came together, then feel free to ask. Please raise your hand or type in your questions.
Suraj, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, Suraj, go ahead. Speak up, Suraj.
Jai Bhim to everyone there.
Yeah, Jai Bhim.
Congratulations on this very inspiring event. Actually, it has inspired a lot of people overseas, and it has given us the opportunity to think that what are we doing here? It's in spite of being not in the States or not in Europe, but other parts of the world, and it's very. I'm very cautious when I'm saying this, but it's very encouraging actually for all of us. I have many questions to ask. I will go one by one, but quickly, I just wanted to know the dynamics, because for me, I know there are a few Ambedkarite organizations like we have ANA, we have AIM, and we have a few. So like it's quite sometimes during the thread of emails, I'm slightly confused as to is there a, I don't know, is there a collaborative effort? Obviously I can see it is a collaborative effort, but regarding the local organizations there, because I have seen the African American scholars have been very active in that. So also those organizations are a part of it. I just wanted to ask this.
Yes, this was organized by about like 15 organizations overall participated in this march. We had support from African American community, and lot of American population were also there to support it through. And this march was also organized in California, which is like a west coast of United States at the same time. So if you are thinking, like, it was good question that it came from you, what you could do it in other parts of world, that you said, like not in Europe, not in USA. What maybe we can think about is hitting this event at the same time all around the world. It could take a lot of collaboration and cooperation and coordinating from all of us, but it's doable now, right? It's not like communication wise we can manage that. So we need to start thinking about that too. What if this event happens in South Africa, it event happens in Japan, it happens in New Delhi, it happens in Singapore, it happens Europe, Asia, everywhere else, Dubai and whatnot. Then that will make a bigger news, and that will make a whole world know about it. Something is going on. This is something very serious, and then they will start noticing about it. So this would be a very positive move if we can manage and coordinate it all around at the same time. So let's think about on that direction too. I think it's manageable. But the push point of view from United States was that we can push the United States government to make a binding resolution for discrimination against caste, discrimination based on caste. And if that happens through U.S. Congress, then it becomes a binding on U.S. government to fulfill it. So they can start pressuring in other, they can start pressuring South Asian countries, India included, Nepal and Pakistan, Bangladesh, wherever such caste-based discrimination happen, that they need to do whatever they need that can be asked through that resolution. And there is such a move being put forward right now in US Congress, which is what we wanted to help gather the momentum for. And if we are successful, we need to be successful in getting all these westernized governments do that. We should have a similar push being done in UK, we should have a similar push done in European Union and rest of the other part of the world too. So thanks, that's a good question.
And I think to, if
No, go ahead please. My okay.
Oh, hello, my name is Marie Tarajan, JBeam. But I think one thing, and Asha will be going more into it in her presentation as well, is that there's a very specific strategy that international advocacy and activism has to support the movements on the ground in India. Because what's happening right now is there is a culture of impunity that goes all the way to the corrupt district magistrates, all the way to the diplomatic policy that India operates in at the UN. So I think we have to use as our organizing model the other great movements of our time that have had to deal with these things, whether it's the segregation movement or the anti-apartheid movement. When a country has failed its citizens in the way that India has failed our people, at that point we have to raise the stakes globally, right? And so strategy has been so far, and it's been more active on the European level, which Asha can share with you about, is that both the EU member states have strong strong solidarity organizations, each of whom have been working with their countries. Oh, it closed. Okay, so each of those member states have Dalit solidarity organizations who've been working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of those countries to, one, either pass resolutions that condemn caste to put pressure on India and other countries having passed, as well as being able to create some sort of bilateral conversation from the official diplomatic ministry with these countries on the basis of caste. But what we're finding is India absolutely will not have it. They're stonewalling at every level, and they start to punish people who then break the silence about this. So all of the atrocities our activists are facing in India, they replicate a kind of harassment, not to the same level. Of course, the danger and the threat Dalit organizations face on the ground is primary and foremost. But the diplomatic strategy is to silence those who are working on this issue internationally. So the issue of caste will continue as is and will be quiet. So Dalits of the diaspora, those of us who are citizens or permanent residents in places like South Africa, Japan, EU member states, North America, we have a very powerful role we can play, because as residents in those countries, we can go to our representatives and say, look, not only are we marching in the streets, we're asking for this very firm policy lever that then can be used as a way to put pressure on the government. That's why these political mobilizations are so critical, because those hand in hand with being able to push a policy arm that then Indian national activists can use to pressure back India, basically like the apartheid movement, it creates an untenable option. So India, we break this myth of India being this like glorious nation, this like birthplace of the world's three major religions, so that they understand completely what's happening. You know, because right now internationally people still think of India, oh, it's the world of Gandhi and Bollywood, and it's such a pleasant place. But they don't hear our stories of how every day we hear a rape, we hear a murder, we hear villages being set on fire. So we have to raise that impetus. So I think that this march is just the beginning, but I think we should plan for another global day of action in the fall, and then another in the spring, and allow every country to come online. So we create a global culture that lets India not rest like this. Modi has just got into power, and already last week he's already started banning people, putting people into jail. Anyone that speaks in these things, he stops them talking, right? So in order to be able to support the organizations on the ground, we have the freedom to speak, we have the freedom to mobilize, we have to create a space for them to be able to be the loudest in their voices, you know. So I'll leave it at that, but I hope that helps.
Now, I mean, if I can respond, or we can continue later as well. I mean, I don't know how the protocol.
Take a minute or two. Definitely respond on. We can have some follow up later on. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I mean, actually, what you are saying is, I think it echoes to other struggles happening around the world as well. If we try to understand the global scale of the protest, we can there is a group called or organization called BDS, which means B for boycott, D for disarm, and S for sanctions. This is against apartheid.
Sanctions. Yes. I think that we have to look at that apartheid model of divestment and sanctions. Sanctions will be tough because most people do not want bilateral tensions with India because it's one of the largest markets in the world. But divestment is still a useful tool because if you're talking about the European countries like Norway, Sweden, they have some of the largest public pensions, and because they're human rights countries, they have a mandate to invest in markets that are following human rights. So there is an Indian MP at Norway who actually put out the idea we could do a divestment policy with our pension plan. Even if there's a conversation like that, that still opens up this process, you know. But I think we have to decide if we're ready to take this on, because divestment and boycott process, it takes a lot of groundwork to do, and it also, we have to change the minds of people about what is actually happening in India that we would want this so badly.
I mean, I think quickly I'll just finish it because I know there are other people who want to talk. But I think this is the idea. Like, we have to try to understand what's happening, like in other parts of the world, and how they are trying to do. And I think one of the things that people are trying to protest against Israel is asking them not to go to Israel for tourism, because tourism is one of the basic. I mean, it's a very wide industry that kind of contributes, and then they explain. If you go to a tourism, try to look for a Palestinian kind of thing. Don't just go to the Ramallah and another thing. So I think we can think about that, and I think it's good that we are having a discussion at this point. But we can actually try to table something, and I think it can work. At least you have started yesterday, and I think there are many things to come. But I will come back when we talk about UN, when Ashaji will talk. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Suraj. Any other questions? Anyone out there regarding yesterday's march? By the way, we just want to highlight that everything is uploaded on Anna's Facebook page. It's also there on a lot of folks' Twitter page. So please share it out, and what's that?
Hashtag.
Please hashtag it so that it's reachable to a wider audience. And the hashtag is Dalit Rights March. Again, it's Dalit Rights March. I'll type it again. Okay. Okay, so we'll move to our next speaker now. Does she need an introduction? No. Okay. So we have Asha Kotwal, and if you want to be without the video,
It's okay.
okay, okay, and we can sit on this.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Yes. Go ahead. Yes, it's over. Go ahead. No, you can speak over there.
Oh, okay. Jai Bhim, everybody.
Jai Bhim.
I was asked this morning to speak about the interventions that we have been doing at the United Nations. So I think I'll spend a little bit of time to talk to you all about what we have been doing for so long. But before that, I'll just give you a little brief about myself for those of you who haven't met. I live in Delhi and I work with the All India Dalit Mahila Adhikar Manch, which is actually a national level campaign in India that looks at working with Dalit women, particularly organizing Dalit communities and women to demand for safety and implementation of the law, particularly in cases of violence against Dalit women and different forms of discrimination. My office is based in Delhi, but most of my work is across the northern part of India. So I'm here in DC because we came here for this global march and also to meet different families and communities in this whole process of building global solidarity towards the struggles that are ongoing in India. But coming back to the topic that I've been asked to speak, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure how many of all of you who are listening are familiar with the whole United Nations and the whole international human rights mechanisms. But I think many of you may have heard about the Durban conference in 2000, and for the first time where a large delegation of Dalits from India were there at the Durban conference raising caste as an issue in the international human rights arena. Of course, that was not successful enough and it was not taken very well, especially by the Indian government and representatives and also other people also. But however, it's been more than 10, now it's maybe 14 years, but there's been active lobbying work being done on the issue of internationalizing caste. In the sense internationalizing caste, I mean even including the word CASTE in the whole human rights language that is used in the international forums. And since that itself has been a challenge because people are willing to talk about every other human rights abuse or human rights issue that's happening across the world. But when we speak about caste, there is huge resistance where people are, first of all, don't allow us to speak. And even when we speak, that's not really taken as a global human rights violation, though it's affecting millions of people, not just in India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and South Asia, but also wherever the Dalit diaspora communities are living in. So for that, for so many years, what we have tried to do is like we've been, there are different international human rights mechanisms, like for example, the special rapporteurs. These are special procedures where you have a special rapporteur, say, for access to housing, or a special rapporteur on right to freedom of association, or a special rapporteur on access to health, special rapporteur on discrimination and in law and practice, special rapporteur on violence against women. Like this, there is a whole range. So what we did is like, and they come for country visits. It depends on if the government invites them, then they come. So last year, this special rapporteur on violence against women, she visited to India. So when she came to India, what we did as a delegation of Dalit women and activists from the community, we of course made a special submission to her on the cases of violence against Dalit women. That of course included different forms of violence, stripping, parading naked in the village, being set on fire, branding as witches, rapes, gang rape, murders, threats and intimidation, like the whole range of violence against Dalit women. We made a submission to her, we presented to her in the different consultations that she had, and finally when she prepared the report, she did make a mention of very strong references to caste, and that how structural violence that exists in a country like India, unless we look at those structural reasons of violence, we can't address gender violence in India. So that was actually a great success, that she actually recognized caste and caste-based sexual violence or caste-based violence on Dalit women and young girls. So what we did was we did a lot of lobby work with her and also with different other special rapporteurs on say for example human rights defenders, special rapporteur in law and practice, because so many of the Dalit women sarpanches who are in the panchayats, they themselves are being attacked. All of those cases also we had given. So finally, when the report was out about less than a month ago, she took 1 year to prepare her report and then she released her report. And on June 11th, in the United Nations Human Rights Council, usually the June session is always, they have the session 3 times a year, in March, in June and in September. But the June session is mostly where the issues around gender are discussed. So on June 11th, she presented her paper in the United Nations, this India country report, her mission report was presented. And then following that, we as a Dalit Women Collective, we organized a very successful, and I would say to my mind, a very revolutionary side event. A side event means that within the United Nations building, we reserve a room and we call different member states, like different permanent missions that are there, the diplomats, different international INGOs like Human Rights Watch, Minority Rights Group, Forum Asia, International Movement Against Discrimination, Racism, and so many other representatives of different members. They would come for the side event where we were all the panelists. We means Dalit women, like it was 2 panelists from India, 1 from Nepal, 1 from Bangladesh. We had the UN Women representative from New York who spoke on caste discrimination against women. But most importantly, for the first time in history, we got the UN High Commissioner herself to come and give the keynote address in our side event. I think that was such a great achievement that she actually came, not that she issued a statement, because she has issued statements in the past, but for the first time she came and she spoke really strong, because she really raised the question to India and to different other South Asian countries who continue to remain silent, and how do we really break the silence on caste, especially when it's just taking away the lives of our girls and our young women. So she really brought that out very strong and challenging, and we all spoke. We all also spoke because we were so angry and we were also so upset that in spite of so many years of work in the United Nations, so many rapporteurs, so many researchers, so many media reports, all of you must have seen so many cases that are coming in the media about how brutal cases are happening. In spite of all of that, still people want to be silent on caste, and this actually shows how the upper caste academia, the upper caste media, the upper caste diplomats, how they have been so strong in their whole Brahmanical agenda of silencing us and silencing the whole issue on caste, especially when it comes to caste-based violence on women. But I think it was a really strong event because we spoke very strongly, and we have raised this question, and then we had the representative from the Indian mission who was there at the side event, and she read out a statement which was extremely, I would say to my mind, very arrogant, because she kept raising this question of reservation as if the reservation has been given to us and every of our problems have been sorted out. So she kept on talking about the constitution, but she forgot that constitution itself was given to us by Dr. Vihara, and she kept saying that reservation has been given, the policies have been made, everything is fine, everything is taken care of, we need not discuss about this issue. But unfortunately, they are not able to understand that just reservation is not something that has perpetuated this caste system. It is something else, and unless we address that, this debate is just going to go on and on. So friends, we did get a lot of support from some European countries, but we're also thinking how that, just having Norway, Denmark, and, these kind of countries to support us is not enough. We need all the countries, like for example, I saw friends here from South Africa. We need Canada. Canada has been very strong in supporting gender issues. So how do we use our network, and wherever our Dalit families are and wherever the solidarity networks are, if we could get in touch with some of the higher level diplomats and officers, if we have from our community, that would be very strong, so that we can push these member states to question India or question Nepal and raise these questions at the United Nations. Because unless we build this kind of pressure, like what we did yesterday in the Global March or what we're planning to do again in the fall of this year, if we continue to build this kind of public and visible actions, then these people can they cannot continue to deny, and they can't continue to silence us. So this is the update I can give you now, very briefly, about what happened in Geneva. I just came from there because our event was on 17th, and I finished that event, and then I came over here. So that process is going to continue. We'll be dealing with a lot of documentation work, submission of cases, and also active lobbying with the different member states from now on. So we need all of your support, and because caste issue is one thing, but even within the caste, to talk about caste and gender, caste and patriarchy is another huge challenge which we are facing as Dalit women. So we have ongoing struggles on the ground, but along with you, all of you who are listening and who are out there in this world, I think definitely together we can make a difference, because finally we are here because we all say, Jai, we believe in Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and what he gave us, and I think what he gave us most important was this caravan for social justice. And as we take steps forward in taking this caravan forward, each of our energy and each of our commitment really matters. So thanks again. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'm here and we can discuss. And I'll also leave my email ID and we can continue to be in conversation. Thank you. Jai Bhim.
Thanks, Asha. Just stay back for a couple more minutes. Like, let's see if there are any other open questions out there. And so I'll unmute you guys. Either type in your question or raise your hand, and we can take questions now. We go and. Okay, guys, please come forward.
I have a comment.
Sure.
Yeah. Can I just speak here or?
Sure. Go ahead, Vinaya.
Yes. So hi guys, this is Vinaya. Thank you so much, Asha, for that very good report back from what you just recently. So one of the things that these people keep talking about is the reservation. I think our counter argument has to be very strong, whereby we have to state to these people that reservation was enjoyed by you guys for 3,000 years. Okay, this reservation, and now B.R. Ambedkar, who was the architect of the Constitution, he never talked about reservation, but he just talked about representation. If he would have thought of reservation, he would have easily taken out that Brahmin people don't need any education, they are 100% educated, right? He did not talk about that. He wanted always the representation. So and then that's the reason we see that our Constitution is so balanced and so top of its quality. So this is something that we have to strongly talk about whenever there's a counter argument that comes from this so-called upper caste. So second example, we were doing this scientist screening, and one of the questions, the scientist movie that ends with little boy taking the stone and throwing, right?
Yeah, the violence.
And immediately the reaction that came from people in New York, Columbia, right? That, oh, why did you show that violence at the end? And Nagaraj had a very good answer. A little boy throwing a little stone, you are calling it a violence, and the full 3 hours movie was talking about the violence that was done on him.
Exactly.
Nobody talks about that, right? So upper caste, their violence is taken for granted as okay, while we do little bit and it is considered a great violence. So guys, now we have to strategize ourselves to talk the counter language.
Yeah.
We have a very strong counter language, and then make these people silent, because same question, Asha, they talk about reservation. Even scientists screening also.
Yeah.
Do you guys enjoy reservation?
Or they talk of Mayawati.
I think there's some counter arguments about reservation again. And this is not my argument. This was given by some IIT professor, I believe, which I have just read. So what we can again counter argue is there is inherited property in India. Everyone inherits from their parents, which is not the case in US, and still US has affirmative action, and Canada has positive action, and UK has some kind of affirmative action in place, and they don't inherit property. There are many businesses being inherited only by
the sons of whose father started the company. So which is wrong. It is not inherited. Like Ambani's, Reliance could have been taken over by another CEO who was much more capable than his own son. And it did not happen, and it does not happen even with small businesses. And if you go to any kind of temple, you only see Brahmin men priests still, and it is completely reserved for Brahmin men priests. And we all know, if we take 5 temples of India, then it is the amount of money that they get is almost equal to the amount of money that India can spend in 1 year. So just 5 temples. So that is the kind of money that they are getting, and it is all reserved for them or their own kids. The temple priests cannot be someone else, but their own kids, and we don't know how things work even there. There are many things, like even the agricultural land. You don't even know who is the owner. The farmer is the best judge, and if reservation is so wrong, then why don't they give the actual farmer, who is the best judge of the land itself? Someone who doesn't know of the land, doesn't know anything about the land, is owning the land and getting all the profit, whereas the farmer is the person who is just working there. So there are many counter arguments, and the social infrastructure is complete. The social structure that we have is completely different. Whereas in United States, even if there is affirmative action, no one is inheriting property. No one is getting, none of the sons are getting business, are becoming business owners just for the sake of it. So there are a lot of the counter arguments. You guys can also think of these, and if you just start looking around, there are many things that are reserved. Other than just education, there are many things that are reserved. So
for so long.
Even politics. Even if you see, heroines are the kids of, and it is so much. There's so much money involved in the Bollywood industry also. So wherever there is money, things are reserved for their own kids.
Okay, so thank you. Very, very good discussion over here. Thanks, Asha, Vinaya, and Smita. And then Suraj has something to add, but before that, on the same topic, is there anything else anyone want to ask or clarify?
I just wanted to make a comment that if you look in caste system, it itself is a reservation-based system. This, if they are so against and they raise the question about reservation, then they need to say like, well, caste system is what? It's a reservation because it gets passed from father to son. There is no entry into any way that somebody else can enter into your profession or your reserved category, whatever that is. So you cannot enter from Dalit level to Brahmin level, or from Kshatriya level to Shudra level, or Shudra to anywhere else, or anything like that. That's a very well structured reserved caste system.
Very good argument. Yes.
So if you are against reservation, then abolishing caste, you are with us. Why are you arguing? Why are we arguing, basically, right? So that should be the counter argument to him, and we should start it in a way. Very well said, sir. I just wanted to point out to you that caste system itself is a reservation system. You are talking on one point against it while supporting the same thing. How hypocritical that can be.
I also think that one thing that might be helpful, especially as we globalize the movement, is creating simple info sheets that basically lay down the arguments with data. Because a lot of the conversations that Savarna people have they're irrational, because they're thinking like any system of oppression basically has an institutional, interpersonal, and individual level. So some Savarna individual that comes to America or South Africa, they're like, I lived past this. I don't understand with this problem, right? What is this thing? But then you just take them back to the data. Who is actually representative at every major social institution in India, whether it's the media, the politicians, the educational system. But the thing is, the business, 90%, like in the boards, 100% of all CEOs in India's boards are made up of Savarna people. This is business. If we're talking about media professionals, we go back to 99%. You know, so you have to. I think for us, we can sometimes get into a place where we want to just get very mad, and I think we just go back to the data. Like, if we are structurally wanting to make an intervention, then we have to say, look at this field, look at this field, look at this field. And with other countries that have had affirmative action policies like the U.S. had 200 years of slavery and 40 years of affirmative action. Like, since 67 is when affirmative action came into place. Even after 40 years, we may have a black president, but if you look at the racial incomes between white families and black families, the average household income of a white family is $40,000. The average household income of a black family is $1,000. Even 40 years after affirmative action. This is after a 200-year system of oppression. With caste, we're talking about 2,000 years of oppression, right? So how can we even say, like, with reservation that this 50 years or 40 years is enough? You see, so I think we have to, like, not let them play this game. And I think in the diaspora, it's a very critical battle, because what happens is here, upper caste, you know, will actually try to change the debate in our own, in these new home countries. So, for example, I was at USC. USC in Southern California on the West Coast has the largest population of South Asians in the student body campus in all of North America. It's a very desi campus, most of whom are actually upper caste. So I kept meeting different upper class, other people who were there, and they say, oh, all the Indians are telling us that the reservation system is so bad, that they were forced to come to America because they couldn't get a seating position in their own home countries because of the affirmative action policies. And I was like, wow, what a tragedy that they had to actually go study abroad. What money did they have access to that they could flee their country? You know, what is happening here that all of a sudden these top 2% people now have to fight with actually the bottom, like 40, 50%? Did they tell you that piece? Mm-hmm. So I think they're winning the war in terms of messaging abroad. So I think we have to pivot our strategy so that we stick to data, we like penetrate the information sphere with our own kind of digital, you know, guerrilla information, and then we keep to the message continually so that we don't let them take that territory anymore.
Very good question. And love the point what you said, like, if we have the data, no one can do a counter argument to that. So that's very well taken. And thanks for highlighting it. So I think it makes sense, all of us, to kind of like be aware of this information so that whenever we are into a discussion, at least we say, oh, this is what the UN says, or this is what the actually says. Thanks.
So I also wanted to ask one more question to Ashaji and you guys too. Is there a place locally right now where you collect your data from, you know, if it's stored, you have to struggle a lot to get your data? What else we outside, a lot of us are in technology field now, and it should not be a big deal for us to come up with a system where we can do your data at a collective location. What are the difficulties you see to collect data and things like that for you guys?
I think the problem, first of all, is that there is less data available when it comes to SCs and SCs in India. Like, they will put us in a general, like national sample surveys or, you know, national family and health surveys, which now recently they have started collecting disaggregated data. Even then, even if we get data on like scheduled caste or scheduled tribe separately, we cannot get the scheduled caste girls and boys, scheduled caste men and women. So again, to get that data, disaggregated data is very less. It's very less, except the National Crime Records Bureau records only cases of rape on scheduled caste women separately. They don't record the other forms of violence on Dalit women. So even today, that's why wherever we speak that 4 Dalit women are raped every day. That's again from the NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, because that's the only data that's available. So we've been asking in all our petitions in India and in United Nations that we need disaggregated data based on caste and gender. But otherwise, there is ample evidence available. so many surveys are there. There's IIDS, Indian Institute of Dalit Studies in Delhi. So they have done a lot of research from like Anganwadi midday meal scheme to businesses to actually how HR firms are discriminating Dalits, discrimination in higher education. So there's a whole range of studies are there. Human Rights Watch just released a report recently on discrimination in education for both primary and higher secondary students. So in my mind, I feel that evidence बहुत है. I mean, you know, how many cases we have, hundreds and hundreds of cases. The point is how we use this to break this denial. And there are, like as you're saying, but like if you have your website, we could link you with some of the data. You can try to put it in one place. Because we have like fact sheets on, say, Dalit women. We have fact sheets on education health. We can try to collate it maybe on your website also so that it's accessible to all of us in the network.
That's a very good point.
I also think that I also think there's 2 points to follow up with Asha. There's the data, and then there's our analysis of the data, and that's where we can actually have shared messaging on that point. Because I think that a lot of times the Indian government will actually try to minimize what the numbers are. So if we co-brand and actually present the data in accessible, like an infographic, for example, so that people all of a sudden who have a low entry into the issue all of a sudden are like, wow, we're talking about 200 million people. That's 5 South Africas. Why aren't people upset? That's outrageous. The world's filled with 50 million people, and yet nobody knows about 200 million people, and that's just India alone, right? So simple things like that we can do. But I think the other thing, especially for those of us in the diaspora, is we need data not just about Dalits that are in the South Asian countries, but we need data about ourselves. Because that is the key other piece of legislation that's happened around caste happened in the UK when Dalits there started to tell the stories of the discrimination of caste they faced in their home countries. We don't actually know, we have no singular metric that has ever said how many Dalits are living abroad. If we are invisible in history, then we are not seen as part of history. And that silence leads to more violence, right? Inside the country, Dalits have always asked me, what are Dalits abroad doing? What are they doing? We don't know their stories. Why aren't they out there? Whereas if you're at Pam Brown, you can always go to any city and go, I want to go to the Pam Brown Association, or I want to go to where the Jats are going. But Dalits, we are actually so invisible abroad. So I think we need to do it. I think so. In going back to the technical question, I think we need to actually launch a global survey about Dalits in the diaspora that one aims to get. It can be an elective anonymous survey because not everybody wants to be out. But if we just put it out there for 4 months, get people to say who they are. I mean, what countries they're from, you know, what professions they're in. Have they faced caste discrimination at home or in their home country? And any other anecdotal story they want to share. Then we can actually get the first placement of who we are in the world and the global process and where we all are, you know. That's the other thing. No other community is so invisible and so broken of our history like ourselves, right? And that's what the violence is meant to do, you know. But that's what we can reverse by breaking the silence and coming together as a
Very, very, very good point again, guys. The discussion over here with this place is really adding a lot of value to the thought process and giving us different perspectives. And like I just want to kind of point to one question you mentioned about having the information about ourselves. Even if we talk about the United States, and we were trying to get some information sometime back, and I don't have the organization to quote, but the government of India do carry the statistics as per them. There are 10 lakh Indian Dalits, or not Dalits, but scheduled caste outside.
Where did they get that data?
And yeah, it's just from the immigration source, but definitely, and we wanted to dive into much more and understand what that detailed statistics is. But I think as a follow-up of that, what you said about building up that survey and get that information will be valuable.
Well, I'm working with, there is another scholar who is a Tamil, from the Tamil Elam struggle, who is based in London. And he did some, the Tamil Dalit Elam scholar. He was going to work with me to help develop a set of questions.
Okay.
So I think we can work on get those questions up in the next month. If so, we can launch this survey next month. And then we can just start promoting it. But what's interesting about your figure that the Indian government said that there's 10 lakhs living abroad, I most definitely think it does not include Dalit Christians. Most definitely doesn't include Adivasis. And I think anyone who has not elected to put, like they're probably tracking only on the SC/ST certificate, right? So I think that being able to do our own survey will get the content I think that'll be. And then also, if there's, like here, for anyone that's on this call, have you guys experienced caste discrimination in the new countries that you come from and that you are now based in?
Yeah, so let's open this forum and guys, please type in your questions or what Marie asked is, in whatever countries you are, and a lot of folks, there is like a gentleman from South Africa, most of them from in US right now, but we do get participants from Canada, Europe, Japan, India. So yeah, and I think if we don't get that response right now, definitely we'll cover these people in the survey. Yeah. But guys, very good discussion, very interesting. Sure.
Yeah, I have one question maybe after one.
Yeah.
So Asha, what I want to, this question of denial that we keep talking about, and we remember this December 2012 that one movement was going that she was made a name that we are here. We saw the whole country came on roads and there was and that. Then some kind of violence happens on Dalit women. Do you get any kind of support from so-called open category people? I don't want to call them upper caste, but they're definitely not upper caste. There are only two types of people, right? Upper caste, low caste. Good people, bad people. And that people keep doing violence on good people. That's what my understanding is. So, do you see any kind of help from these categories at all?
It's like, it's actually, see, in India, if you look at the other movements, including the women's movement, like the feminist movement, they have a very strong history of organizing, of protesting, and this also we saw in this December 16th Wala case. But that same movement has remained very silent on caste-based gender violence. No, that silence has been there. If you look at their backgrounds, they're mostly leftist, communist, mostly Brahmin, mostly elite, English convent educated, got very good background, good but economically well-off background, very much secure life they live. No? For those people to talk about caste is very uncomfortable, and they have never done it. They have never analyzed gender violence, or they have not analyzed the society based on caste. So they have been the ones, I guess, who have experienced the privilege of caste, not the pain of caste, what we are
and
talking.
they don't want to talk about it.
No, there is generally a terrible silence, but we have been raising this in several forums directly. In the forums we have been raising this. But the other danger is when we raise these questions, and if they come to take forward our issues, then what will happen ultimately? Dalit women who are leading now, they will automatically get washed out. That is what has happened if you look at academics who are teaching about caste and in the Indian institutions, in universities and universities outside the country, mostly Brahmin scholars. As if we don't have scholarship in our community, as if we don't have leaders, as if we don't have writers, as if we don't have poets, So, but our issue also has been very nicely, what do you call it?
The cottage industry.
It's a nice industry for them, no? Publishing books, journals, publications. So, apna careers, they're building their careers on us also, no? So, problem is that when we get involved with the other groups in fighting, especially with Dalit women's issues, personally, I'm very conscious of that, because I would want that our Dalit, the Mahila Karyakartas on the ground, they become the leaders.
Yeah.
Not another, Brahmin elitist feminist who will come and take over all young leadership. So that's why I'm always cautious, and but at the same time I'm questioning them. I'm asking them to come in solidarity. But definitely we will lead our own struggle.
Right.
So it's quite a dicey situation.
They come with a vested interest, then there's no point.
And you will die.
But also what I have seen is, and I at least have heard from some people, that even if these consider
happening here.
they will understand if they are rational at heart, they will understand the problem as a problem, right? But when they go back there to their home, they also face kind of tremendous amount of pressure from men, their men, to not do these kind of activities. Because I think there were some books published, Miss has been, who killed Kelkar, or who killed, so these were the like progressive minds in the Brahmin community, but they were killed or murdered by their, by their own people. If one of them, starts supporting others, like we have some examples like Kulkarni or people like that. But ultimately, they get killed by RSS, because the ultimate agenda that within those also, some people just want to keep their agenda.
But I think, to follow up on both of those comments, so, I think that whether it's Fab India feminists or other, other people who are upper caste allies, I think that the first goal it's not to not have a diverse movement, or not to not have upper caste people involved. It's not about that. It's that their work is not about organizing memberships that are Dalit. Their work is to first unlearn tasks and do their own privilege work, and then for them to organize their own community. Because too often what they'll want to do, like Asha was saying, is they want to build their careers off of doing this work. But imagine if they actually took all of that energy and actually talked to their aunts, talked to their uncles, talked to their cousins, did a study of past privilege of all the people that start to make them feel uncomfortable about it. The discomfort about talking about it is not just about saying, I have to recognize my privilege, but it's actually taking on the privilege of their community. That is what gets people killed. That is what actually gets people uncomfortable. But that is where the change is, right? Because we cannot go to their dinner table like the way we cannot go to their Didi and say, Didi, why do you beat your maid? Uncle, why do you have this land? And then tell them to treat those people like this. Who are we to them? We're just the same of those people. But this is their cousin, this is their daughter. There's a shift that can happen because of the personal connection, and it's their responsibility to do that. So it's more about having them recognize their privilege and shifting their strategy, because, that is a world we will not be able to go, and it's not, and we are too busy doing our own work,
Thank you, guys. Again, a lot of participations over here, and very interesting discussion going on. So, let's from online folks as well who are participant over there. Please come up and
ask a question, raise a hand.
Questions, or if you have any comments you need to add.
Suggestions.
Sure, Suraj, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just taken aback. I just wanted to talk. Asha ji, and also other people, many people don't know, but I was working with United Nations Human Rights Council.
Okay.
And I was there with them, and I was coordinating the Human Rights Council. The 17th session I was looking after them. And what you are saying about side events, and I met Udit Raj there when he came to give a statement on behalf of NGO there was a guy called Sanjay Barua who manages the British MPs.
Liberation. Yeah.
And often we do not have our own platform to come to the platform of NGOs. So I met him, we had a discussion, and when I was meeting other Dalit activists, unfortunately what happens is the anti-Indian, the Dalit issue becomes an anti-Indian issue, and the pro-Kashmiri or the Tamilians who are like who are deemed as the terrorists in India, we kind of club with them, and I think this is one of the issues. But I should tell you that I have been closely watching the work of you, but I think at some point we have really introspect into an international activism. That's why I was very much pleased to learn about this global march. But going forward, and as we are talking about the sanctions and international activism, I think what we can do, it's I think unfortunate for us, although there is IDS and there, but unfortunate for all of us here that we don't have a dedicated organization who is lobbying UN at every now and then. Now, if I want to give you an example, UN Watch is a pro-Israeli run by Zionist people, and everything happens there. The next statement, they release a statement from UN Watch, and Hillel Neuer, he's the director, and we had some, we had some arguments on that. But the point I'm trying to make is, Israel is such a small country, and the issue they are dealing with are exactly, like not exactly, but they're different in the way. A slight bombing in Palestine or in Israel is taken to the floor of United Nations. So I think we actually as an organization, every murder or every assault or every atrocity has to be made accountable to the world. And I think if we have a dedicated group or dedicated organization where we are circulating every now and then, our organization there is going there, or our letter is going there, because we have to base, I think, somewhere there. It's good that we are in states, but the United Nations Office of Geneva, where Human Rights Council sits for its 3 sessions, I think we have to work around that. And when I was working in UN, I think I should also tell, when you were telling about High Commissioner, Nabi Pillai, I've been talking to her a few times. One time we had this conversation, and I talked to her once in Geneva and once here in South Africa. And whenever I meet her, I raise the issue about what about caste. And then she told me that this Indian government is very reluctant in accepting, which is obviously everywhere is an inevitable fact, unfortunate to our life. But and also she said there is a movement where we are seeing slowly Dalit activists are coming. And then I said her that the issue of Dalit has not only relating to certain for them, the idea of Dalit was relating to the most, as you see, the economic and the social atrocities. But I said it crosses the lines of every facet of human beings. But I think High Commissioner and all, they are still, for me, pardon my language, but they are still the puppets of because that's still not a powerful position. Example, United States country dominates its own position in sanctioning. So I think, but what we can do at our level is try to understand and what our fellow colleagues here have said is to create a database. Let's try to create kind of a web kind of page and ask people to contribute so that we know. One of the things that we are trying to do since I was in London is to create a network of scholars or the young Indians, because we have having few scholarships given by Maharashtra government, UP government, AP government. Many young people are going outside, but they are not aware that they have a social responsibility to do. So I think we are trying to do that, and the survey I think is a very fantastic thing. And I think when you were for the side event, the Indian lady from the Indian mission came and gave a very arrogant statement, right? I think I know her. I think I know her. But the point is, even I think if she's the same, I hope she's not been transferred, because she told me she's going to be there for 2 years. I was there 2 years ago. But when they were trying to present the case study of Indian situations, reservation is only the fact that they are putting this, which is fine. But I think we should start contacting the scholars all over the world who are working on caste issues. And there are, I think, to my knowledge, there are at least like 10 very reputed scholars they are professors. They are in New Zealand. One of my supervisors is working on caste in South India and Kerala, Dilip Menon. So I think if we kind of create a lobbying to the scholars, because the scholars eventually contribute to the debates happening around the world, and they have a positive say. Unfortunately, what they do is they publish it in academic journal, they publish it in some book, and they are limited because and someone like Smita Narula writes a Human Rights Watch report and then she's awarded because that becomes an affirmative. So I think we have to kind of personally I will start doing that. I will start writing to the scholars, but I think we should have a common kind of stand and we should have a common agenda where we all, as we are discussing around the table here, should come and we can talk off. Like right now, I know there is a time limit, but then we can kind of try to set up a meeting sometime other. I can call and
We should.
And what's interesting about what you're saying is something that Asha and I were talking about in the EU tour that we just did, because essentially all of the international mechanisms that have been set up are those that came out of Durban. You know, so the international organizations that have been advocating at the UN level are led by non-Dalits for the most part, and if you can think of that as like international solidarity 1.0. But 2.0, I think we have to start building or being part of the membership of those organizations. But I think that we can now lead that because we have a functional group of people that are living abroad in the member states. But a major issue with it, which is the thing that we have to consider, is that IDSN, the International Dalit Solidarity Network, which has been the kind of key hub for all of these Dalit groups, for the 10 years it's been in existence, has not received ECOSOC status, the status that allows you to do what you're talking about at the UN, to be installed on them for every year. So let's not kid ourselves. We can set up this institution and we will be strong in the activism, but India will not let us get accredited with the UN. Because if anything has been told in terms of Modi's, like, you know, initial days, since he's come into power, he's already had one scholar blocked from returning to India, right? There's already been a policy of scholars who work on CAS being blacklisted from coming into the country. There's already been journalists who've been trying to cover it who've been blacklisted and cannot come into the country now. So this is what we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, that this is part of a diplomatic strategy, is people who work internationally on this issue will be barred access to be able to work and be able to continue on to work in solidarity. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it or come up with new strategies. Like IDSN has come up with like multiple ways that Asha and other Dalit activists will get accredited through other sympathetic organizations. But I think that the main impetus to understand is by doing this work, by being visible, by being our own voices, we will now raise the Indian flag around the fact, oh, Dalits are getting organized, you know? And so then we have to come up with the counter strategy as we come up with this assertion, because they will not tolerate this. Already, you guys know about the new ID report, correct? Are you guys familiar with this report? Yeah, I forwarded to you guys. This has a very chilling factor in terms of NGOs working on the ground in India from receiving foreign funds. And the dialogue is NGOs standing in the way of development. And they have some like stupid metric that says India lost money based on all the activism of the organization. So while this first report was focused on environmental concerns, you know, the reality is they're going to go after other civil society sectors, and Dalit women's issues and violence against women's issues, which have gotten a lot of press and have cost India money, they are going to go after those sectors next. So I think we have to just be very clear, very specific, very rational, and move forward with the understanding of what the changing climate is, which is a very chilling climate, you know.
Okay. Maybe the others who are not familiar with the UN and, you know, the Human Rights Council, others on the call, maybe they have some other questions.
Yeah.
And I can also share some of the links that we have later.
So we just
I think you should share the book with 1990, someone wrote, and how India, you know, countered that report. And you have said that what India standing was, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. So we just have around 10 minutes or so right now, as per our timeline, what we have. So I think it was a good discussion. We jumped on various topics, but it's very fruitful. But going back to specifically United Nations, how it works, and whatever Asha covered, are there any questions related to it? Please type up, or I'll unmute you guys. Are there any questions, Mr. Dala, Ram Gautamji, Shashikan?
Also, if anybody joining for the Paris conference from this group?
Yeah, and so I don't know.
Hi, this is Sunil.
To Suraj think that when we talked about bringing in a lot of intellectuals and academic folks who work on Dalit rights, I think a lot of members from European countries are going to join the Paris conference, and people should definitely join over there.
Yeah, because over there I can also talk about this follow-up lobby work with the group.
Okay, so Sunil Yotamji has a question. I'll unmute him. Give me a sec.
Hi, hi to all, Jai Bhim, to all. Of course, unfortunately, I could not make it to Washington, D.C., and also joined a little bit late call. I want to know, how many people attended and, how the interaction went on with other people. Sorry, repeated question.
It was difficult to get the count, but whatever numbers we have, the signatures we have, it's more than 300 for sure, and a lot of members couldn't join because of traffic and all that. So it can be in the range of 300 to 500 who were in DC during that time frame.
Thank you.
The numbers may be low, but the energy which they carried is huge. More than 1,000. Each one is equal to 10 people. They got more energy. They participated wholeheartedly. That's a great success,
I do accept, showing ourselves people with the placards is a great event actually, showing to the world. So yes, that's true. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel about the photos that you put up on the
No, that's
But yeah, definitely we should. Any other question, guys? All this information is uploaded on Anna's Facebook page. It's out there in our email groups, and if you want to share this around to your friends, reporters who can get it published somewhere, please go ahead and do so. Sure.
Yeah, good job.
It's a very good question, Chanmuri. So, and this is where we all get charged up, okay? So, if there are no other questions, then guys, please do join us for a chant. The chant, and I am going to type it for everyone. I can over again this movie so that.
Do we do hey hey ho ho?
Let's do that. That's the best. So guys, we are going to have one of the slogans which we repeated yesterday and which built up a big a momentum over there. So.
And for all 3 hours, we were chanting slogans.
And all this is done by 3 people in the room over here. So be ready to. And then will you please lead us? So,
No, both Vinay and I will do. Yeah. But I recommend everybody see we're in front of a computer, right?
So I'm going to unmute everyone. Give me a minute so that.
People in South Africa, they are starting to do this.
Yeah, so guys, I'm going to unmute you and please join the slogan with us. Okay? 1, 2, 3, let's start.
Hey, hey!
Hey, oh ho, car system got to go. Hey,
System got to go. Hey, hey! What? System got to go. Hey, hey!
Oh ho, system got to go. Hey,
Hey,
oh ho.
System got to go. Hey, hey!
and got to go. Oh,
System got to go.
to go.
Dalit rights, sir.
Human rights.
Dalit rights, sir.
Human
Human
rights.
rights.
Dalit rights, sir.
Human rights.
Human rights.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
So what we can do is for any groups that want to do solidarity actions, we can give you the list of chants, and we can also give you the design poster for the country of your choice. We'll put it in the colors of the flag based on what you do.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that. Any thoughts? Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining. It was a very fruitful session, and we'll upload this on our website. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
I didn't know that never would eaten like this. Every week. Oh.
So